They built the system to keep you poor. Let that sentence sink in for a moment, because it isn't a metaphor and it isn't an exaggeration. The world you live in, the routines you follow, the expectations placed on you since childhood, none of it was accidental. None of it was random. Every piece was designed, polished, and reinforced over generations to produce one outcome: your obedience. From the moment you were young, you were placed on a track that looked normal, safe, responsible. Go to school, get good grades, follow instructions, don't make trouble, and maybe back then, you believed it. You believed life was simple, do what you're told, and eventually, you'll be rewarded. But here's the first truth they never wanted you to see. The path you were given wasn't designed to set you free. It was designed to keep you predictable. Think about the life of the average person today. Wake up tired, rush to work, sit in traffic, spend hours doing tasks they don't care about, come home drained, distract themselves with entertainment, sleep, repeat. The same pattern, every day, every week, every year. People call it life, but if we're being honest, it looks more like a carefully constructed cage. And the craziest part? Most people never question it. They never ask why the system looks the way it does. Why school trains you to memorize facts but never teaches you how money works. Why you learn to solve equations but never learn to solve your own limitations. Why you're taught to obey authority but never taught to build your own power. Because a population that can think clearly is dangerous. A population that understands money is uncontrollable. A population that questions authority cannot be ruled. Machiavelli knew this centuries ago. He studied power like a scientist studies nature. And he understood something most people still don't realize today. Systems are not random. They are created by the powerful to benefit the powerful. Once you understand that, the world suddenly makes more sense. Why does school prepare you for a job but not for freedom? Why does the system reward obedience but punish creativity? Why do most people work their entire lives and still die in debt? Because the system needs workers, not thinkers, not rebels, not independent minds, certainly not free individuals. And if you want proof, just look at what the system attacks the hardest. Not ignorance, not laziness, not dependence. The system attacks independence. Try stepping out of line. Start a business, question a narrative, refuse to follow a norm, and you'll watch how fast people around you react. Not because they're evil, but because they've been trained to defend the very system that traps them. Here's the part that hurts to admit. People defend the cage because they're afraid of the open world outside it. The system feeds on fear, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of risk, fear of stepping outside the herd. Because as long as you're afraid, you'll stay in place, you'll settle, you'll obey. You'll keep working, consuming, and repeating the cycle that keeps the powerful on top. But Machiavelli whispered a different truth. If a system was designed, it can be understood. If it can be understood, it can be outsmarted. And that is where your escape begins. Not with rebellion, not with anger, not with burning the system down. Your escape begins with awareness. Awareness that the world you grew up in was never designed to serve you. Awareness that comfort is often a trap. Awareness that the biggest chains are the ones you don't even see. Look around. People today live in cages built from debt, distractions, social pressure, and fear. Not iron bars, not physical walls, invisible chains. Chains made of expectations. Do this. Follow that. Don't go too far. Don't think too big. And the minute you start questioning those expectations, the minute you ask, who benefits if I live this way? You start breaking the spell. Because the system doesn't survive by force anymore. It survives by consent. It survives because people accept the script without ever questioning who wrote it. But you're here. You're listening. You're questioning. And that alone already puts you in the top few percent of people who are waking up. This first step, this awakening, is what the rulers fear most, not violence, not rebellion, awareness. Because once you see the cage, you can't unsee it. Once you recognize the game, you can begin to play it differently. And once you understand how power really works, you stop being controlled by it. and start learning how to control your own life. In the next part, you'll learn why the system needs you poor, why poverty isn't just about money, and how the rulers keep people mentally trapped long before they're financially trapped. But for now, just understand this. Your life isn't small because you're weak. Your life isn't small because you're weak. Why do they need you poor? It's one of the most important questions you can ever ask. Because once you understand the answer, the entire structure of society suddenly becomes clear. Most people think poverty is an accident, a flaw in the system, a sad outcome of bad luck or poor decisions. But that's not the truth. The truth is far darker, far more intentional, and far more strategic. Poverty is a tool, a weapon, a method of control. The powerful don't want everyone wealthy, confident, and independent. They need a population that is constantly stressed, constantly overwhelmed, constantly grinding just to survive. Because a population fighting for survival doesn't have time or energy to question anything. Let's start with the first mechanism of control. 1. When you're poor, you live in survival mode. People in survival mode don't think about freedom. They don't think about building wealth. They don't think about questioning the system. They think about paying the next bill, getting through the next week, solving the next immediate problem. And that is exactly where the system wants you, because a mind trapped in survival is a mind that can be directed, a mind that can be influenced, a mind that is too exhausted to resist. Machiavelli studied this psychological truth centuries ago. He understood that rulers didn't need to fight their people. They only needed to keep their people busy, distracted, and dependent. And what keeps someone more dependent than financial struggle? 2. When you're poor, you fear consequences more than you desire freedom. Think about how many people stay silent at work because they fear losing their income. Think about how many people tolerate disrespect because they fear losing stability. Think about how many people give up their dreams because they fear the risk of failure. This fear is not natural, it's engineered. Society trains you to believe that losing your job is the worst thing that could happen, that stepping into uncertainty is irresponsible, that taking control of your own life is dangerous. Why? Because fear keeps you obedient. A financially independent person cannot be threatened. A wealthy mind cannot be intimidated. A free individual cannot be controlled. This is why school doesn't teach you about money, leverage, investing, negotiation, or entrepreneurship. Not because it's unimportant, but because that knowledge would make you powerful. And powerful people cannot be ruled. 3. When you're poor, you become a customer for life. This is a truth that almost no one talks about. The system doesn't profit from wealthy, independent thinkers. It profits from people who constantly feel a void and are constantly trying to fill it. People who are stressed, people who are insecure, people who are exhausted. What do? They buy distractions, they buy entertainment, they buy temporary relief. The system profits at every stage of your struggle. You're stressed, you buy escapes. You're depressed, you buy comfort. You're insecure, you buy status. You're lost, you buy guidance. You're tired, you buy convenience. A healthy, confident, self-reliant person doesn't consume endlessly, but a stressed, distracted, fearful person does. And that's who the system wants you to be. 4. When you're poor, you rely on institutions instead of yourself. The poorer a person is, the more they depend on their job, the government, banks, corporations, experts, influencers, authority figures. Dependency is power. Not for you, for them. The more you need the system, the more the system can shape your decisions. The more you rely on external approval, the easier you are to manipulate. Machiavelli understood this better than anyone. A ruler never wants his people to be so secure that they stop needing him. He wants them just comfortable enough to stay obedient, but just desperate enough to never rebel. Sound familiar? 5. Poverty creates mental limits long before financial limits. Here's the cruelest part of all. You can escape poverty financially, but still carry its mindset for years. The system knows this. If it traps your mind early, it can trap your life forever. You begin to think small, dream small, expect small, And you call it being realistic. You tell yourself freedom is for other people. You tell yourself wealth is luck. You tell yourself success is rare. You tell yourself you're not meant for more. But the truth is, those thoughts were planted, you inherited them, you absorbed them. They were given to you by a world that benefits from your limitation, because the greatest prison ever built is the one placed inside your mind. That's why the system needs you poor. Poor in money, poor in ambition, poor in belief, poor in vision, poor in self-worth. Because wealthy, confident, self-directed people are dangerous. They break rules, they build their own systems, they create new paths, they become independent. And independence is the one thing the powerful cannot control. But here's the turning point. Once you see the trap, once you recognize the architecture of your limitations, once you stop blaming yourself and start understanding the system, the chains begin to crack. In the next part, we'll talk about something deeper. How they manipulate your mind, your mood, and your beliefs long before they control your money. Because escaping financial poverty begins with escaping mental poverty. If you want to control a population, you don't start with their money. You start with their mind. Because a controlled mind creates a controlled life. A controlled mind follows rules automatically. A controlled mind doesn't need chains. It builds its own. And the system understands this better than anyone. Before they limit your opportunities, before they restrict your freedom, before they convince you to settle, they start by shaping how you think, how you feel, and what you believe is possible. Let's break down exactly how they do it. 1. They control your mind by controlling your information. Think about the world you grew up in. From childhood, you are told what is true, what is normal, what is acceptable, and what is impossible. They don't teach you how to think, they teach you what to think. And where does your information come from? School, media, authority figures, corporations, institutions. All of them feed you a carefully filtered worldview. A worldview where the system is good, obedience is noble, authority is correct, and success comes from following the rules. They never expose you to the stories of rebels, outliers, entrepreneurs, strategists, or misfits, people who rejected the script and built their own lives. Because if they showed you those examples too early, you might start questioning the script you were handed, and questioning is the enemy of control. Machiavelli knew this well. He wrote that a ruler must influence not only the actions of the people, but their perception of reality itself. Because once you control what people think is normal, you control everything. 2. They control your mood through overstimulation and exhaustion. Have you ever wondered why people today are more anxious, depressed, and overwhelmed than ever? Even though technology has made life easier, it's not an accident. A stressed mind is easier to influence. A tired mind is easier to distract. A drained mind is easier to control. So the system floods you with stimuli, notifications, news, ads, endless content, short dopamine hits, constant noise. You're surrounded by digital chaos, emotional overload, and mental clutter. So much that your brain rarely has a moment to sit in silence. And without silence, you can't think independently. You can't reflect. You can't question. You can't strategize. You can't see through the illusion. A mind that is always reacting has no energy left to create. And that's exactly what they want. 3. They control your beliefs by shaping your identity. This is the deepest layer of manipulation. Because once the system controls your identity, it no longer needs to force anything. You'll police yourself. You'll dismiss opportunities automatically. You'll talk yourself out of growth. You'll justify your limitations. You'll defend the same system that holds you back. How do they shape your identity? Through repetition. You're average. You're replaceable. Don't aim too high. Be realistic. Someone like you can't do that. That's not your role. That's not your place. These phrases get repeated by teachers, peers, media, family, co-workers, society. Eventually, you internalize them. They become part of your personality. And once your identity shrinks, your potential shrinks with it. This is why freedom is so rare, because most people are locked inside mental walls they didn't even build. 4. They control your mood by rewarding you for being predictable. Every system has a carrot and a stick. You already know the stick. Fear, consequences, judgment, scarcity. But the carrot, the reward, is even more dangerous. They give you temporary comfort, small pleasures, social approval, stability, cheap entertainment, emotional validation. And these rewards keep you satisfied just enough to stop you from seeking real freedom. You become addicted to good enough. You settle for comfortable. You avoid risk because comfort feels safe. But comfort is exactly how the system keeps you asleep. Because a person who is comfortable rarely transforms. A person who is comfortable rarely rebels. A person who is comfortable rarely breaks old patterns. Comfort is the most elegant trap ever designed. 5. They control your mind by convincing you that life must be hard. Think about how often you've heard, success takes decades. Money is slow. Play it safe. Don't dream too big. Life is supposed to be a struggle. These beliefs are not truths, they're instructions. They guide you toward a predictable life, a life spent working, earning, spending, and repeating. Because if you believe success must take decades, you'll never attempt the things that could change your life in a year. If you believe you must be realistic, you'll never chase extraordinary. And if you believe struggle is normal, you'll never seek freedom. Machiavelli wrote that rulers must shape the worldview of the people so thoroughly that rebellion never even crosses their mind. And that is exactly what the modern system has achieved. People aren't held back by walls, they're held back by beliefs. But here's the breakthrough. Once you realize your mind has been shaped, you regain the power to reshape it. Once you see how your moods are manipulated, you learn to regulate them yourself. Once you understand how your beliefs were manufactured, you can destroy them and build your own. The greatest revolution isn't external, it's internal. Because the moment your mind becomes yours again, the system loses its grip. And in the next part, we dive into something crucial. How the elite use psychological tactics, just like Machiavelli taught, to keep society divided, distracted, and emotionally reactive. Because a divided population can't rise. Prepare yourself. This is the part they never want you to understand. If you were in power, and your goal was to stay in power, how would you stop people from rising? You wouldn't need armies. You wouldn't need violence. You wouldn't need force. All you'd need is strategy. And Machiavelli, centuries ago, laid out the exact blueprint. A ruler stays in power not by uniting the people, but by keeping them divided, distracted, and emotionally controlled. What you see in the world today isn't chaos. It's engineering. A carefully executed psychological strategy designed to keep society too fragmented, too distracted, and too emotional to ever challenge the system that rules them. Let's break down the tactics one by one. 1. They keep you divided so you never unite against them. This is one of the oldest strategies in human history. If the people are separated, they cannot organize. If they cannot organize, they cannot rebel. So the system encourages division at every level. People versus people, workers versus workers, groups versus groups, opinions versus opinions, identities versus identities. The poor versus the slightly less poor. They distract you with enemies that aren't actually enemies. They convince you to fight battles that don't matter. They make you believe the real threat is your neighbor, not the elite class ruling above you. Think about it. A population arguing with each other never looks upward to see who benefits from the argument. They want you emotional, they want you tribal, they want you reactive, because a society fighting itself is a society that forgets who built the cage around it. Machiavelli wrote that a ruler should always keep the people occupied with internal disputes, because the moment the people realize they share the same chain, they will turn against the hand holding it, and that's what the elite fear most. 2. They keep you distracted so you never ask the real questions. We live in the age of infinite distraction. Endless content, endless entertainment, endless scrolling, endless noise. Every second of every day, something is trying to capture your attention, your focus, your emotional energy. Because if your attention belongs to them, your power does too. The system wants your mind so busy with minor problems that you never examine the major ones. They give you constant entertainment so you never examine real injustice. They give you trends so you never analyze long-term consequences. They give you rapid-fire content so you never sit in silence and think deeply. They give you drama so you never notice strategy. You've been trained to react, not reflect, to scroll, not study, to consume, not create, to watch life, not control it. A distracted mind can't plan. A distracted mind can't build. A distracted mind can't see the truth, and the system relies on that. 3. They keep you emotionally triggered so you can't think clearly. One of the easiest ways to control someone is not through logic, but through emotion: fear, anger, frustration, envy, outrage, hopelessness. These emotions cloud judgment. They make you impulsive. They weaken your ability to see the bigger picture. The system feeds you emotional stimuli constantly. Crisis after crisis, scandal after scandal, outrage after outrage, problem after problem, shock after shock. Why? Because a mind drowning in emotion cannot think strategically. Machiavelli warned rulers that if people ever become calm, focused, and rational, they will begin evaluating the ruler. And once people start evaluating, they begin questioning. And once they question, they begin resisting. So the key is simple: never let the masses become emotionally stable. And when you look around today, that's exactly what you see. A world constantly charged, constantly tense, constantly overwhelmed, because a society that is emotionally chaotic cannot rise. 4. They keep you powerless by giving you the illusion of choice. This is one of the most brilliant manipulations of the modern system. They make you believe you're free. They give you endless, superficial choices: what to watch, what to buy, what to eat, which app to download, which distraction to choose. But the big choices, the ones that actually control your life, are already made for you. The system gives you the illusion of freedom while making sure the structure around you never changes. You can choose your shoes, but not your economic reality. You can choose your entertainment, but not your societal role. You can choose your distractions, but not the rules of the game. This illusion pacifies people. It makes them feel empowered while keeping them powerless. 5. They keep you emotionally drained so you never develop the strength to escape. A person needs energy to grow, to change, to break patterns, to rise. So the system drains your energy with bills, debt, work pressure, exhaustion, stress, fear, uncertainty. By the time you finish surviving the day, you have nothing left for self-development. And that's by design, because transformation requires energy, and they make sure you have none left. This is how they disarm the population, not physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. But here's the truth: a divided mind can unite, a distracted mind can focus, an emotional mind can stabilize. A powerless person can awaken. The moment you see the strategy, the spell begins to break, because you can't be manipulated by a tactic once you understand the tactic. In the next part, we move into something even more powerful: how to break the mental and emotional chains, how to reclaim your mind, how to stabilize your emotions, and how to rebuild yourself into someone the system can no longer control. This is where the transformation begins. Up until now, you've seen how the system keeps you poor, trapped, divided, and mentally controlled. But now we shift into something far more important: how you break free, how you reclaim your mind, how you rebuild your power, how you become someone the system cannot control. This is where the transformation begins. Freedom is not an accident. It's not a moment of luck. It's not something given to you. Freedom is built, piece by piece, choice by choice, thought by thought, and it starts within you, long before it shows up in your bank account, your lifestyle, or your opportunities. Let's break down the steps to reclaiming yourself. The first step: silence the noise so you can hear your own mind again. Most people today don't suffer from lack of intelligence. They suffer from lack of silence. Your mind is constantly being hijacked by notifications, opinions, ads, news, drama, distractions, content, entertainment. A mind filled with noise cannot think clearly. It cannot strategize. It cannot question the world. It cannot question itself. The first act of rebellion is simple. Create silence. Not forever, just enough to reconnect with your own thoughts. When you sit in silence without stimulation, without distraction, your mind begins to reorganize itself. Your clarity returns. Your intuition awakens, your creativity reappears. Your true desires rise to the surface. This is why the system hates silence, because silence breeds clarity, and clarity breeds power. So start with small moments of quiet, even 5 minutes, just you and your mind. This is where reclaiming begins. The second step, regulate your emotions before they regulate you. Your mood is the steering wheel of your life. If your emotions are controlled by the world, then your direction is controlled by the world. You must learn to manage your emotional state, not suppressing feelings, but mastering them. This is how elite thinkers, leaders, and strategists operate. They stay calm in chaos. They stay rational in conflict. They stay focused under pressure. They stay grounded when others panic, because they know something most people never realize. If someone can control your emotions, they can control your decisions. The system tries to keep you emotional for that very reason. So what do? You learn to observe your emotions without obeying them. You learn to respond instead of react. You learn to pause before you decide. You learn to breathe before you speak. You learn to detach before you engage. Emotional mastery isn't about becoming cold. It's about becoming unshakable. Your mood becomes yours again, not a puppet pulled by society's strings. The third step, rewrite the beliefs that were installed in you. Most of your limitations are not real. They're inherited from parents, from teachers, from culture, from society, from the system. Beliefs like, you're not enough. You don't deserve great things. You should stay in your place. You should aim smaller. Life is about survival, not freedom. These beliefs were planted in you to shrink your potential, but you have the power to rewrite them. Ask yourself, who told you that you couldn't be successful? Who told you your dreams were unrealistic? Who told you freedom was only for the lucky? Who told you you weren't capable of more? Search your mind for these voices, then challenge them, replace them, destroy them. Because the greatest breakthrough in life is realizing this simple truth. You get to choose who you become. No belief, no matter how old, gets to control your future. The fourth step, build discipline, not motivation. Motivation is emotional. It comes and goes. It depends on mood, energy, and inspiration. The system loves when you rely on motivation because it knows motivation is unstable. Free individuals rely on something else. Discipline. Discipline is predictable. Discipline is consistent. Discipline works when you don't feel like working. Discipline creates progress even on the hardest days. Discipline is how you escape the trap. It's how you build a new identity. It's how you rise above the average mindset. It's how you build a life the system can't dictate. When you discipline your actions, you slowly take control of your destiny. The fifth step, choose a path that makes you independent. You cannot be free until you stop relying on the structures that control the masses. This doesn't mean abandoning society. It means creating alternatives. Independence can take many forms. Financial independence, emotional independence, mental independence, skill-based independence, entrepreneurial independence, creative independence. The goal isn't to escape the system entirely. The goal is to build enough strength, skills, and resources that the system cannot threaten you, silence you, or limit you. Because once you no longer fear the system, you become truly free. The sixth step, build yourself into someone the system cannot break. To break free, you must transform from the inside out. And that transformation looks like this. Your thinking becomes sharper, your emotions become calmer, your mindset becomes stronger, your habits become consistent, your ambitions become clearer, your self-respect becomes unshakable, your presence becomes powerful. And here's the final truth. The system can cage a weak person, but it cannot cage a strong one. Your job is to become strong, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, and strategically. Because when you transform yourself, the system loses its grip. You rise above the manipulation, you rise above the fear, you rise above the conditioning. You become the kind of person Machiavelli described, a person who understands power, who sees through illusions, who makes strategic moves, who leads their own life. In the next part and the final part, we bring everything together. You will learn how to escape the system entirely, how to build real power, real wealth, and a life on your own terms. This is where everything changes. You've seen the system, you've seen the manipulation, you've seen the cage, and most importantly, you've seen how to break your mind out of it. Now we bring everything together because escaping the system isn't just about awareness. It's not just about mindset. It's not just about emotional control. It's about building a life so strong, so independent, so powerful that the system no longer has leverage over you. This final part shows you exactly how. Not theory, not fantasy. Strategy. Let's begin. 1. Escape begins with a decision. Not a dramatic moment, not a crisis, not a breakdown. A decision, a calm, strategic, unwavering decision that says, I'm done living small, I'm done being manipulated, I'm done following a script written for me. I choose my life, I choose my power, I choose my future. This decision is internal, quiet, simple, but it changes everything. Because once you choose freedom, every action begins aligning with that choice. 2. Building power starts with skill, not luck. The system tells you success is luck, but every powerful person in history knows the truth. Power is built from skill, not job titles, not degrees, not connections. Skill. Skills that generate value, skills that generate income, skills that make you irreplaceable, skills that give you leverage. The more valuable your skills, the less the system can control you. Learn skills that make you money. Learn skills that give you independence. Learn skills that turn you into a producer, not a consumer. When you master valuable skills, you stop depending on the system, and the system starts depending on you. 3. Wealth is built by leverage, not labor. Most people work harder, but never escape. Why? Because the system teaches labor, not leverage. Leverage is when your work multiplies without more effort. A business, an audience, investments, automation, scalable skills, intellectual property, digital product systems, not sweat. The wealthy don't work harder than everyone else. They use systems that work while they sleep. You must build leverage, even small leverage at first, because leverage is the bridge from survival to freedom. This is the moment you shift from being a worker to becoming an owner. 4. Control your time or the system will control it for you. Time is the most valuable currency you have. Lose money, you can earn it back. Lose opportunities, new ones will appear. But time, once it's gone forever. The system steals your time through long commutes, endless work hours, meaningless tasks, digital distractions, emotional exhaustion, low-value habits. To escape, you must reclaim your time relentlessly. Cut distractions, cut low-value activity, cut energy drains, cut obligations that don't serve your mission. Every hour you reclaim is an hour you reinvest into building your new life. This is how power compounds. 5. Build a life that doesn't crumble when the system shifts. Most people live fragile lives. One bad month, one lost job, one emergency, and everything collapses. This fragility is intentional because fragile people are easy to control. You must build anti-fragility. Anti-fragility means multiple income streams, skills that work anywhere, networks that support you, emotional stability, strong habits, financial buffers, self-reliance, adaptability. When the system shakes, the weak panic, but the strong rise. When society becomes unstable, the unprepared suffer, but the prepared thrive. Freedom is not avoiding chaos. Freedom is being the kind of person who benefits from chaos. 6. Build yourself into a strategic, powerful individual. This is the final transformation. The system can trap average minds. It can trap emotional minds. It can trap unskilled minds. but it cannot control a person who is calm, clear, skilled, strategic, self-reliant, disciplined, focused, purpose-driven, unshakable. This is the person Machiavelli admired. Not a tyrant, not a ruler, but a human who understands power deeply and wields it with intention. When you operate with strategy, the world no longer happens to you. You happen to the world. You shape your destiny instead of obeying it. You build systems instead of being trapped by them. You create opportunity instead of waiting for it. You become a force, not a follower. 7. The final realization: the cage was never yours. Here's the truth that frees you. The cage you lived in was built by others. The limitation you felt was inherited, not chosen. The life you accepted wasn't yours. It was given to you. But now you see the bars. Now you see the system. Now you understand the strategies. Now you know how to break them. Now you have the tools. Now you have the mindset. Now you have the awareness. You don't have to live small. You don't have to stay silent. You don't have to settle for the life the system assigned to you. You can build a new identity, a new path, a new destiny, a new empire, a life on your terms, a life of abundance, a life of clarity, a life of freedom, a life the system can't touch. This is the escape. This is the awakening. This is where you rise. Your mind is yours now. Your mood is yours now. Your money is yours now. Your power is yours now. The system built a world to keep you small, but now you are no longer small. You are aware. You are rising, and the cage is behind you.